my name is Mary Elizabeth Davis, and I currently serve as the superintendent of Henry County Schools, but really I'm a lifelong educator, and I really started my career as a classroom teacher, but much before that moment I knew I was destined to be in the classroom. I would play school as a child because I really saw my teachers as my heroes. I always wanted to be like them, and every day I would go home and take on their name and their identity, and everything that they did for me in school I would then subsequently do for my dolls, my stuffed animals, my neighbors, my brothers. I really just always found them to be so extraordinary. And as I became a teacher, I taught chemistry and then taught physics, and have really spent now the bulk of my career in public education serving in district roles that I believe are designed to make sure every single child has access to that inspirational teacher that creates dreams for them. So my grandmother was a pioneer, and as just really unexpected in her generation, went to college and majored in chemistry and worked as a scientist in a lab as a young professional in a generation that was very uncommon. And my grandmother lived with my family, and I was really exposed to this female conviction about what is possible when you are studious and dedicated to learning, dedicated to your education, dedicated to just contributing to your community and making an impact in the lives around you. And so she had a saying that they can never take your education away. And she was just always driving. As soon as you finished your freshman year in high school, she wanted to know where you're going to college. And as soon as you finished your freshman year in college, she wanted to know where you're going to get your master's. And as soon as you finished your master's, she wanted to know when you're getting your doctorate. And just always pushing, pushing, pushing. And so I really do think that education, my own personal education, is a source of empowerment that I lean in on very, just as very innately. And I also really believe that she taught me the importance of being surrounded by exceptional, brilliant people, and who are challenging my thinking and really contributing to me being a better version of myself. And I see that in the way I work every day. I'm surrounded by the best possible people in public education, the smartest possible professionals, and I continue to lean in on the value of an education and how that equips women and equipped me to really lead in larger and larger spaces and make an impact for more children. I just really think that there's something beautiful about the network of females in, particularly in public education, and really in leadership roles in public education. National statistics show that there is just really a very small percentage of superintendents that are women, and an even smaller percentage of female superintendents that have children that still live in the home or in their school-age years. And I have found that the opportunity to connect with women in superintendencies across the country has been an extraordinary source of strength, an extraordinary source of perseverance, and really an extraordinary source of that inspiration needed to do sometimes hard things in a phase of life where you certainly want to balance your family and your work responsibilities. And I just think the way we mentor young women in the profession, particularly in public education, and help every young professional see a pathway towards impacting this incredible field at larger and larger scopes is just really important in the way we do this work together. Well, I think that every single teacher and every single public educator puts in an extraordinary amount of energy and time into doing this work really, really well. It's just sort of part of who we are. It's part of our design to serve our community, and that doesn't stop when the last bell rings when you're a teacher, and it certainly doesn't stop for me when really, the final hour of the workday should be wrapping up. But I just think I have a couple of sort of secret tips on how to look at this work responsibility and your community responsibility and still make a very important space in your life for your family responsibility. One, I'm a tremendous compartmentalizer. I really know how to be present and not be lingering my mind and thoughts on what I was just doing, but to really exit that and be present. And that includes when I walk in the door. Whatever time of day that is, I'm able to really let go of everything that might have been consuming my brain and consuming my energy and shift it to my family and my kids who get the entirety of my brain and the entirety of my presence. And then I've got a couple of tips on how I handle work responsibilities that pop themselves up in after hours. And it's really to not have my phone present. I have a commitment to never have my phone in front of my kids. And so I've got a spot where I keep it. I've got a routine on how I maintain a connection to it. But I really work pretty deliberately to keep my kids as the center of my attention and not be constantly disrupted by the phone. And then the last thing is to just talk to my kids, and my husband and I do this often, is we are together as a family serving our community. And this is what we get to do. And all of us have a different role in doing that. And they make sacrifices and I make sacrifices. But in the end, it's really what makes our family united and connected. And I try to bring them everywhere I can, which sometimes is a little bit difficult because public parenting in leadership roles can have its challenges. But ultimately, I do think we're moms first, we're family members first, we're wives first, we're partners first, we're sisters and daughters first, and so somehow that has to be really dedicated time and space in your brain and in your energy. Well, I'm going to start with my grandmother's advice and say continue to dedicate yourself to your education. Expose yourself to the way people think about the world, see the world, and expose yourself to how to really just get more and more access to an education. And then I would also say that you can do this. You can contribute in our professional capacity in ways that you may never have dreamed possible. I certainly never dreamed it possible. I certainly never set out to be a superintendent and never would have thought that I would find myself in a role of this responsibility in a district of this size. I just know that when you serve your community, you surround yourself by the most brilliant professionals possible, and you really take some risks in order to apply that education you've acquired. You really have so much potential just wrapped up inside you. And I know that someone said that to me once, and that's really what it takes in this network of females who lead in communities across the country.